Hello, welcome to the show. Today we are joined by Susan Padron, an intuitive personal stylist who has helped hundreds of women rediscover themselves through healing and authentic personal style. After giving birth to her son and losing her sense of self, and I think a lot of us can relate to that, Susan embarked on a journey to rediscover who she was and found that her personal style was a powerful tool in the process. She's here to share how you and I can attract our dream life by unlocking your signature personal style that embodies who you are now. Not how you looked 10 years ago or not how you are going to look 10 years from now, but now in the present moment. Let's dive in. Hello, Susan. Welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I am beyond thrilled to be here.
It's long coming, right?
Definitely.
Oh my goodness. Can you walk us through the process of how your own transformation inspire you to help other women through personal styling?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my own experience really started when I became a mom. So, prior to becoming a mom, I felt like I really had a strong sense of style. I knew, what I liked to wear. It felt easy to dress my body. All of those things just kind of like came easy to me. And then I became a mom, and I remember clearly just standing in my closet and looking at my clothes and saying, none of these fit who I am now. And not even just from like a body perspective, but fit me in the transformation that I had gone through, with becoming a mom, with, everything that goes along with that, the emotional transformation and growth that comes along with becoming a parent. My husband and I also went through some really challenging times at that point too, where he lost his job. I had to go back to work kind of unexpectedly. It's a whole thing where I was going through a lot of deep self-discovery and transformation. And I remember looking at the clothes in my closet and saying, some of these still fit me, my well, now mom body and everything, but they don't fit me and who I am. And so I had to go deeper and say, well, okay, like who am I now? How do I want to be seen? How do I want people to view me? How do I view myself? And bringing all of those pieces together to then become comfortable and confident in my own style journey. And now that's exactly how I help all of my clients that I work with as a personal stylist. When I was going through that whole point of transformation, when I just became a mom, I had a completely different career at the time. I was a middle school music teacher.
Mm,
And it
not
was
so
more,
little though, because
no.
you transform people's life with music.
Exactly. And it was beautiful. And I loved teaching. I loved my students until it just wasn't the right fit for me anymore. And the transformation of, me becoming a mom and doing that self-discovery really went hand in hand with my shift into becoming a personal stylist. And I think so much of that really had to do with my own transformation and recognizing that if this was something that I could do for myself, then I would absolutely be honored to help other people go through something similar and work through it, because it's so much easier when you have somebody else to kind of hold space for you and guide you through it rather than just doing it on your own.
Oh my God, I'm glad that you mentioned that. I was telling you before we started recording that my sister had it was so easy for her to pick clothes, to style everything, and she looked like, oh my God, I'm ready for the red carpet. And her energy showed that too. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, okay, I think this can go with this, and like, oh my goodness. I even go to the stores, I buy stuff, and it's like I come home and I try them again and it's like, oh, I think I'm gonna return them. So, now that you mentioned that, and you talked about, the body, changing, going through, um, through those transformation, you becoming a mom. So many women face the body image challenges as, as their age Like in your 20s, in your teenage, you go to the 20s, and then your 30s, then your 40s, and soon you're like, I'm on premenopause. And it's like,
Right.
hey, what happened?
Yeah.
Just yesterday I was 19. Or we experience those life changes. How do you help your clients overcome these challenges and embrace that personal style that truly reflect who they are now, not 10 years ago, not 10 years from now, now? And maybe also include something like share some advice for those listening that are beginning their a self acceptance journey and style evolution.
Absolutely. So what I always love to do is, challenge, people to really ask themselves the same question that I had to ask myself. And that's, who am I? Starting with that first and foremost, because when we come back to that question of just reconnecting with who we are at our core, not the roles that we play in our lives, not our job titles, not, our responsibilities, but who we are as a unique individual, that's when you can really become comfortable with identifying your personal style. Because I think what I see often with a lot of my clients is the problem that they often run into, and myself, I was guilty of this too, when you're used to dressing your body a certain way because you're comfortable with that, like for example, just using my own personal experience, before becoming a mom. I found it was like I knew how to dress my body. I knew how I liked to show up and what I wanted to show off, what I didn't want to. And that was easy. And then my body went through some big changes. And it even went through some big changes after becoming a mom too. And when I would get frustrated or when I would come across these issues, and the same thing with my clients, it's when you don't really know what to do with your body because you're stuck in the past. And you're also holding on to an older, outdated version of yourself. Older in the sense like from the past,
Right.
where we're looking at old photos of us, right? And we're looking at a photo and we're like, oh my gosh, I wish that I was that size again. Or, oh my gosh, like I wish that I looked like that. And what I often remind my clients and had to remind myself too is that, if we're being honest, most of us during that time still had insecurities way
Yes.
back when, where that version of us was, still like fixing her shirt or making sure that like, everything was, tucked and sucked in and all of those things. But we don't view it with that same lens because we're not being honest with ourselves, which is not an easy thing to digest and take on. We want to just say like, oh no, I just wish that I looked like I did when I was in my 20s. And it's like, oh, but honey, how great did you feel about yourself in your 20s? Probably not that great. You probably did not, you weren't enjoying it the same way you are with this, like these rose colored glasses now. And that's difficult for a lot of
Yes.
people. So instead, it's like, okay, well, this is the body that we have now. And why not choose to really embrace it and celebrate it and love it? I mean, loving it it's a radical idea. And I know that it's not for everybody. Getting to the point of body positivity or like loving our bodies is not something that everybody can take on all day, every day. So even if we can just be neutral, have like body neutrality and have moments where we're just not being so hard on ourselves, that alone is life changing and changes the way that we shop, changes the way that we dress ourselves, changes the way that we show up in the world. I mean, all of these things just from being like a little bit kinder to ourselves and honoring who we are now rather than who we used to be or how we used to look, how we used to dress. There's nothing wrong with embracing those elements of who we were, as long as they're still supporting who we are becoming. It's those past versions of ourselves that are no longer in support of our journey that we need to acknowledge, and release. And that it absolutely applies to your clothes too. You might have clothes in your closet that are, from previous sizes ago, regardless if it's up or down, that you hold on to for some reason. Usually, what I hear a lot is, oh, well, I know that when I can fit into that, like that's my goal. Like that's when I feel like I will have, when I lost enough weight that, or, gained enough muscle that I can start shopping again.
That's someday.
Mhm. And it's one thing if you're already doing a workout plan, that's fine. Like I get that. It's another if you are holding that piece in your closet as a toxic reminder of something that just may not be aligned for you. And it's also saying, it's a constant reminder also that you are telling yourself that you're not good enough right now. And that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And no one deserves that. It's one thing to be on a journey of, self-discovery, of, personal development. It's another to use clothes as a punishment for, what your body is currently going through. And it could just be, supporting you living your life. It doesn't have to be something, like major. It can just be living. But even if you're just living your life, why continue to put it off to the future and say, when I lose, so many pounds, then I will focus on me. Then I will make myself a priority. It doesn't have to be that way. You can absolutely make yourself a priority now. And I don't mean like you have to buy a completely new wardrobe and buy all the new clothes and, all of that, but you can still have pieces in your closet that make you feel beautiful and confident and strong and like a true representation of who you are. Because then, people respond to that. You carry yourself differently. And it can be scary at first. It can be scary for a lot of us to be seen as who we are, right? Because when you start to kind of become really secure in that, it's like, oh, well, now people are going to see me. I'm not blending in anymore. Like, I'm not just fading into the background, I'm showing up. And that's not to mean that you're sticking out or that you're standing out. You're just not fading into the background anymore. And that alone can just be this tremendous facilitator for other transformations to occur within your life.
Oh, wow. Yes. What a wonderful advice. It's true what you're saying that your personal style can greatly influence, and connect with others in different ways. I
Mhm.
often tell people when you look good, you feel good and you show up differently. And my goodness, I have this jacket that I really loved.
Yeah.
And I said loved because I had to throw it away not too long ago.
Oh
And it
no.
was for my podcast, was my, my cover
Yeah.
photo. It was just beautiful. And one day I tried it on and I'm like, wait a second, like 2, 3 months ago, this was fitting, like it was fitting. And now it's like I couldn't close it. And I'm like, oh my God, my favorite jacket. I have to throw it away. And it was time.
Yeah.
It was time. And I guess what I'm going with this is that often, people just have that hard time, like you're saying. So how do you guide your clients to use their personal style to make strong, authentic connection in their professional and social circles?
Yeah. So definitely comes back to making sure that we have that connection to who we are first and foremost. And then it just becomes an extension of that. So when my clients know who they are, and we have all these conversations, there's a lot of work that we do together. I ask them so many questions. And just learning about them, about things that they enjoyed wearing in the past, what they would really love to wear now. Maybe they have some aspirational goals within their personal style or within their life in general, and we use clothes to support that. So it's constantly a conversation about what they want from life. and how they want to be seen. Like, do they want to be seen as warm and approachable? If they want that level of warmth and approachability, then we focus on specific colors and textures and fabrics, that really create that aesthetic. We also will focus on certain silhouettes too, that have a little bit of a softer, more fluid feel to them. Or, if they want to go in for a job interview or for a promotion, and they need to have a little bit more of an authoritative stance, but they also want to stand out, that's where we have so much fun, because that's when I love to push boundaries. I love to question. I love to just say, I love helping my clients unlearn things is one of my favorite parts of the work that I do. So, because there's a lot of this, these preconceptions that we have about how we're supposed to show up, right? And using that example of, their professional lives, whether they're going to do a talk or they're going to do an interview or something, and they feel like, okay, a professional woman is supposed to look this way. And they have this like kind of image in their mind. And they're saying that and they're telling me about, well, this is what I feel like I should wear. And they're kind of talking about it like that. And they're not excited about it. That's where, I say, well, how do you want to feel? Because when you know how you want to feel and how you want your audience to receive you, whether, it's an audience of one or it's an audience of hundreds, you still want that communication to be clear. And the communication is happening between, the clothes that you're putting on your body, your accessories, your shoes, the whole visual image is communicating before you even speak a single word. So it's really important that we have that conversation about how they want to feel, separate from what their expectations are or what the thoughts are in their head about how they feel like they should be showing up. I like to unpack those shoulds and I say, okay, well, who said that? Who told you that? Like, and with being, a lot of my clients are high-powered women that also, are business owners too sometimes. And, when you run your own business, you have so much more flexibility too in how you show up. And it's like, okay, well, now you're an extension of your business, of your brand. And what does that look like? And how do we make all of those connections? So it's all about, really determining what their lives look like, how they want to feel, how they want to show up, how they want to be seen, and putting that all together and bringing in the clothes and accessories to be that fun, accurate representation of all of it.
Yeah, that is such a fantastic advice. And you reminded me of this guest that I had on the show about, I think, 2 years ago. And she's in the financial industry. And she said, I show up as I am. Like, if I cannot wear, like, nothing against lawyers, but, like, all, with suits and dark colors, even though I love black. But I show up how I am. And
Yeah.
that's how the energy that I show, and that's how I attract my clients. So let's dive a little bit deeper on how we can redefine our own personal style, and helping busy mompreneurs feel more empowered and rejuvenated, contributing to the overall healing and transformation
Yeah.
as they balance their personal and professional style or personal life. Because one, like, we cannot be just on our personal lives and not only on our professional life. There has to be, priorities and balance.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
hope I the question came across clear.
Yeah, I think, it can be tricky to have that combination of, okay, well, like my personal style connecting to my professional style
Mhm.
and having there be that connection that feels cohesive without losing, your sense of self in one aspect or the other. But what I find is really helpful, especially for my clients who might have a little bit more limitations or restrictions and how they show up and what they wear for work, that's where, if they're expected to look, well, if let's just say they work with a bunch of older men, right? I have women, like I have my female clients that work with a bunch of older men. Then there are going to be certain expectations of how my clients show up. However, we don't want to be that heavily influenced by the men that they're working with because, we definitely don't need that kind of misogyny or patriarchy in, impacting our style. However, we do want to kind of pick and choose our battles, right? And that's a fair statement too. So what I like to do in those situations is really bring in elements of their personality with their professional attire. So when we're maybe shopping for a blazer, it would be easy to just get like a solid black blazer, that just looks like a timeless suit jacket and call it a day. But for my clients, that might be a little bit edgier or a little bit sassier, or just more in touch with their femininity. That is not going to resonate with them. They're going to see that black blazer and they're just going to feel like, okay, like time to put on my uniform. And it's going to be depressing and they're not going to love it and they're not going to feel like themselves.
Dreaded. They're
They're
gonna
going
dread
to
it.
dread it. Exactly. They're like, oh, time to put on my blazer so that the men don't come for me, and that's not how we want to get dressed. Nobody wants to get dressed feeling like that. So instead, I look for blazers if, that's something that they need in their lives, just as an example, with some unique and unexpected details. So it's still a blazer, still not going to get, a second glance from the older men that they work with. But, maybe it has like a little puff sleeve detail. Maybe it has like some really unique buttons, or it's in a really fun pattern or color, or even like a different fabric. Maybe it's a leather blazer, like a brown leather blazer that is just divine. It's a way of still playing by the rules, but pushing the boundary and reconnecting with who you are. So not letting the patriarchy win. And also
Giving our
pushing
feminine flair.
exactly, or maybe it's a really cool pair of shoes that like a really fun pair of pumps that we put with, the suit that you kind of need to wear because that's, the dress code for your work environment or the event that you're attending. So there are different ways where we can just kind of pull in that element of our personal style into our professional style so that you can still wear that really awesome brown leather blazer with, the little puff sleeve, the puff shoulder and all of that with like a cute dress or a fun pair of jeans or something. And it automatically becomes like a fun fall staple. So I like to have that versatility with my clients, where as much of their wardrobe as possible can really have the ability to flow within their lives. So we can dress it up a little bit and make it a little more professional, or we could dress it down and make it work beautifully for their casual everyday lives too. And, everything in between. Of course, there are going to be some pieces that only check one box, but I try to make those as limited as possible, because that's no fun. I like the versatility of it.
I love that. Oh my goodness. And so many things going through my head. And I'm pretty sure people are thinking, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And it sounds like I'm going to be wasting my whole paycheck on my wardrobe now. What advice do you have for women who want to invest in their wardrobe, but are on a tight budget, and how can they still achieve, the signature personal style that you talk about?
Yeah, I know budgets can be really tough and they're reality of life sometimes, So I understand that we definitely have those limitations. So I always like to suggest is becoming really intentional about your purchases. Because when we have those impulse buys, if you're at Target and you're like, ooh, I like that. Like, I don't need that dress, but I need that dress, and you're just adding stuff to your cart. Or, you're on social media, you're getting targeted ads, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need that. That's where the impulse buys really get you. And that's when, you might get those pieces home and then you're like, oh, did I really need that? Like, did I? Am I really going to
Return.
wear that? And then, some of us are great about returning, some of us are not. And that is where you can literally be throwing money away, like literally wasting money instead of building a wardrobe with that level of intention. So my suggestion, I have a couple little tips. So my first tip is to, when you get rid of pieces, like your jacket, like you mentioned, how it was your favorite jacket and you're like, oh my gosh, I just had to part with it. It was an emotional experience, understandably so. You but instead of being like, oh my gosh, this jacket is done now forever, and you just kind of forget about it until it like comes to mind every now and then when you miss it and miss not seeing it in your closet. I like to suggest that you keep a notes app on your phone, like open up the notes app and or a
Mm,
list somewhere and write down, like what you liked about that jacket. And this way, you can remind yourself, it's kind of more top of mind. And when you're shopping, if you see something that reminds you of that jacket, you purchase that, you immediately have a new replacement for a piece that you're going to get a lot of use out of because you did. And keeping track of those things, like, okay, I just had to I had to get rid of this pair of jeans because I wore them to death. And now I don't have like an easy, casual, comfy pair of jeans anymore. So you add that to your list so that when you are ready to go shopping, when you do have that allotment in your budget, you can shop with intention instead of
mm,
just, be like, oh, this is inexpensive. This is cheap. I'm just going to buy it. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this. You can be more intentional about how you're spending your money and curating a style that really reflects who you are rather than just gathering a bunch of pieces that may or may not really reflect your needs and your lifestyle. So that's my big number one tip is definitely start a list. And it's important to like try to really ask yourself what it was that you liked about the piece that you're replacing,
mm.
rather than just saying, I need a new pair of jeans. Because for like if I needed a new pair of jeans, that could, for me as a personal stylist, that means a whole series of things like what color jeans, what style, what leg line, how do I want them to fit? How, like, what tops do I want to wear with them? There's all of these other pieces. So
Wow.
I can say, I want a pair of comfortable jeans that I can wear on the weekend that just feel good. They have some stretch so I can sit comfortably. And I know that that's what I'm looking for. Then I can also be more selective with the pair of jeans that I end up bringing in. It comes back to being super intentional about what we're adding to cart, so to speak, or adding to our wardrobe, what we're spending our money on, rather than just settling or finding something that kind of checks the box, but like also doesn't, because if I end up with a tighter pair of jeans that doesn't have a lot of stretch, but they fit and they're fine, that does not serve the purpose of what I needed them to. So that's why I really find it super important to just have that level of intention and clarity around what you loved about those pieces. My other big suggestion too, when it comes to being like really responsible with your budget, is getting your color analysis done. Because when you have your color analysis done, then you know exactly what colors look best on you. It takes all the guesswork out, makes it so incredibly easy to shop because you all of a sudden have this beautiful palette that is specific to your coloring. And it makes it easy to just be like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to guess if that red is going to look good on me or not. It goes with my palette. I know it's going to be amazing. So I know that that's going to work for me. I love the style, I love the fit, and you don't have to ask yourself any questions beyond that. So that is like a short term, like a little bit more of a minor investment that then has lifetime benefit from it. It's just wild. You see results immediately and then it works for literally the rest of your life. So that's, being intentional, having a list, color analysis. Those are my best, absolute best tips for that.
Oh my goodness, these are really insightful points, and my brain is just going everywhere. As a personal branding photographer, but
Mhm.
you mentioned journaling, and I love journaling. And I usually tell people, you can just journal about everything. And I thought everything, I already had it covered. But now journaling also as your pieces that you let go and that emotional. Wow. So I'm curious. And the color palette.
Mhm.
What if and I'm gonna circle back to my original questions that I was gonna go with this, but what
Yeah.
if the colors on the color palette that you choose, and you really love the color palette of your branding, and
Mhm.
it doesn't really match what your personal style or colors
Yeah.
come into place? How does that work?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. And I work with a lot of branding photographers and brand specialists, to help their clients and to help them navigate that exact point. So I'm so glad that you asked that and brought that up because it comes up for me a lot. And what my suggestions always are, when the brand colors are not necessarily in the palette for, the business owner, is to focus on the colors that are within the business owner's palette that complement the brand colors so that they support those colors, and they don't necessarily just have to be neutral colors, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't love my branding colors on me. So that means I have to wear, white, black, or tan. It doesn't have to be that way. There are still so many other colors that will complement your branding color palette, even if it's not necessarily in your own. So finding that balance where it's maybe a similar level of saturation. So it has that same kind of impact and strength without taking away from you or taking away from your brand. And they just kind of go hand in hand. Or, again, you can find other neutral colors that are not as bland or basic as white or black. If that's not your vibe, if it is,
That's
done,
my vibe.
easy. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Although being a certified color analyst, I will tell you that a true white and a true black do not work on everyone, because true white and true black are actually cool based colors. And if you have a warmer skin tone, or if you have a neutral skin tone, then it can almost appear really harsh and really stark in the level of contrast.
Mm,
So that's where, when you're exploring your actual color palette, when you have your color analysis done, that's when it's like, okay, well, I like the look of white, but white does not accentuate my features the way that I want it to. So then do we need to go for more of a cream or an oatmeal, or even like a soft gray? And instead
right.
of black, maybe like a charcoal or a milk chocolate, and, exploring those colors in a way that, again, you don't even have to think about it, because you have your whole color variety in front of you, your whole color palette. And it's like, okay, well, now I just need to find clothes in those colors. Like, great, done. So it just makes it so much easier that way.
Yeah, so that's why when people say, "Oh my God, the color looks so beautiful on you," it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, but it's not really my color." But
Yeah.
yeah, oh my God, that is so amazing. I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah, me
So I'm
too.
curious. I want to circle back to. I'm curious to know, what is your perception of beauty?
Oh, my perception of beauty. What an incredible question. I think beauty absolutely radiates from within. I think that it's how we show up. I think when we radiate a level of confidence and kindness, that that is really, I think, what beauty is about for me. It's like this extension and this radiation of love and kindness and warmth, and also kind of showing up a little bit, in that confident state too, where it's like, yeah, no, this is who I am. Hi, like, I am holding space for you to be you while you are also holding space for me. And that, I think, is just so incredibly beautiful.
Wow, that's such a powerful way to see beauty. And I am looking at your website and I can really tell, that your energy and your personal style reflects on your work.
Thank you.
That is so beautiful. And yeah, I love it. I love
Thank,
this question. I love talking about beauty, and we all have our own perceptions. And that is just beautiful. That
thank
is
you.
beautiful. So, what is one thing you stopped apologizing for? And this is one of my favorite questions that helped you take your business or your life to the next level.
I love this question. I'm like squealing with excitement over here. Because that is so just what I'm all about, with my clients, with the work that I do. I'm like, no, no, we're not apologizing anymore. We're not like holding ourselves back. And yeah, for me, I feel like it was a handful of things that all kind of happened simultaneously. And I think I stopped holding on to the expectation of other people and how I felt like I needed to be perceived in order to be a professional. And what I mean by that is, when I first started becoming a personal stylist, when I was making that transition from becoming a teacher or being a teacher to becoming a personal stylist, I had all of these kind of ideas in my mind about, what I should wear when I'm teaching versus what I should wear when I'm styling someone, or what I should wear casually, when I'm just being me. And I started to really pay attention to certain things that I really loved with other people and felt like for some reason that I couldn't also have that. And for me, I had tattoos prior to becoming a personal stylist. I have a lot more now. But I had some tattoos, but I felt like in order to be perceived as a professional, as like an authority, as a personal stylist, because so many of the personal stylists that I knew did not have a lot of tattoos, I was like, well, I should probably have mine covered when I'm meeting with a client for the first time so that, I can feel them out and they can see me in this way. And also nail art, like having really fun nail designs and like bright colors on my nails was something that I always loved when I was a kid, that I stepped away from the older that I got because, you're just
Wow.
told, okay, well, fun nail designs are not professional. Tattoos are not professional.
Just for little
And all,
girls, the nails.
uh-huh,
You're not a teenager anymore.
right. And then when I was in my 30s, and exploring this new career, I also was told, well, you're leaving this stable job with a pension, with, a steady paycheck to start your own business. Like, you're a new mom, your husband just lost his job. Like, what are you thinking? And all I knew at that time was that everything in my body, every message from the universe was like, you have to do this. And I followed that path and I started just embracing more of myself along that way. Because what I was noticing too is when I was showing up with, like my tattoos covered and still with more like just conventional, like traditional nails or whatever, I found that I wasn't really connecting as much with my clients because I was hiding so much of myself. And because I felt like I had to show up in this specific way, these expectations that I was, internalizing. And what I realized is the more that I just naturally was connecting with these clients who I was like, oh, you're my people.
Right.
The next session, I'd be like, oh, by the way, I'm wearing something sleeveless. And yes, I have all these tattoos. And, starting to embrace more of myself and highlight more of myself unapologetically. That is when I started to really have just the most beautiful client base that I just love. Like, I am so incredibly fortunate because quite a few of my closest friends now, 8 years after starting my business, are people who have been clients or started out as clients or are still clients, and we just have this deep, beautiful friendship because of the level of vulnerability, not just with what happens within our sessions together, but also with the fact that I can show up as myself and they can see me as me. So when I want to get another tattoo, which happens often, I'm not concerned about how it's going to impact my business because my clients see me and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm all about all of this. Like, it might not be their aesthetic, plenty of my clients don't have tattoos or nail designs or whatever.
Right.
So it's not about like copying me and putting it onto my client, but there's something about that energy that I convey where this is me showing up unapologetically, fully as myself, confident in how I represent me in all these different layers, that they see that level of confidence. And that's what they're like, ooh, yes, that's what I want for myself.
Right.
How can Susan help me to achieve that kind of feeling? Or, like that's my goal, or that's
Right.
their goal for, the future. Like, I don't know that I can achieve that level of confidence right now, but if I can at least start the path to get me there, I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, you inspire them. You give them that permission that a lot of people are looking for. Yeah.
Exactly. Because that's really it. Like, I mean, obviously I share my professional guidance on, clothing and colors and all of that, but so much of the work that I do is exactly what you just said. It's giving them permission to make choices that feel good for them and holding space to form their own opinions on clothes because so often our experience with shopping is, influenced by who we're shopping with, right? Like, even if it's a well-intentioned friend or like, a parent, they or your sibling, sometimes they are putting out their opinion first before you even have a chance to speak. And then you're like, oh, wait, should I like this? Or wait, should I not like this?
All their insecurities, or
Uh-huh.
their, like, that doesn't look good on me. Like, are you sure it's, and as a mom of teenage and girls, they're not, oh my goodness, they're no longer going to be teenagers. um, it's like, are you sure? And I'm like thinking, okay, wait a second. Wait a second. I had to stop myself because that's their body. That's not my body. That's their style. That's their what they love. It's not what I love. And I love that you mentioned the tattoos. I used to have two,
Yeah.
but I used to have two in my fingers, and I used to
Yeah.
cover them with my rings. And
Mm.
of course, it wasn't something that I liked. It was something that I was helping a friend of a friend that was learning how to do tattoos. My stepdaughter, she's a tattoo artist, and she is fabulous. She's
Mm.
amazing. And my daughter, when she went to do her tattoos, and I was like, "Are you sure? I just want you to be sure that it's something that you like, because that it was gonna be a big tattoo on her back, and it's beautiful. It's a dragon."
Oh,
And I'm
amazing.
like, "Are you sure? Because if you want to remove it, I think you still can do it, but it's gonna hurt like a mother."
Mhm. Mhm.
But you just need to make sure that it's something that you really love.
Yeah.
And and that's you. I mean, that's you. You want that. That's it. I was okay with, like, I didn't project what I didn't want that because I
Mhm.
didn't want it. I was just making sure that it was something that she was really gonna enjoy and something that she really loves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Susan, before we wrap up, can you share with us, where can people find you and connect with you? Where are you most active? Where can people find about your services and where you can help them?
Yeah, absolutely. I am definitely the most active on Instagram. My handle is Susan Padron _stylist. I also have a podcast myself where I talk about, other personal style tips and everything. I bring on guests where I like to help people just challenge the way that they think about things, helping them to unlearn. My one of my favorite pastimes is unlearning certain things. And I love being able to bring guests on that really help to challenge that conversation too. And then my website is also fantastic. I have a lot of like free resources on there in addition to my services and the color analysis that I also do. It's all there. It's a beautiful website. I am very proud of it.
It is beautiful, and I am looking at it, and I put it in here just in case, some of the questions will pop up in my brain, and it's just beautiful. It really shows you, like now that I'm talking to you, and I'm like, oh, that, yeah, it makes sense.
I'm
I
so
love
glad
it,
to
and
hear
I'll put all, the links there. What is the name of your podcast?
that. My podcast is just the Susan Padron podcast. So
Oh.
everything, everywhere that you can find me, if you search Susan Padron, I'm usually stylist as well, I'll come up. So that's the
Oh,
best
that's
way.
amazing. That's why I chose my name too, My Lens. And
Exactly.
everybody's like, it's that I thought Lens was because of of the camera. And I'm like, no, that's actually my last name.
Oh, perfect. How on brand. I love that already.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Susan, for joining us today. You've given us a lot to think about when it comes to personal style and how it can impact every aspect of our lives. And for you, our listeners, be sure to check out Susan's website. It's just beautiful, and her social media for more inspiration. Until next time, stay empowered and stylish and be authentically and unapologetically yourself. Thank you so much, Susan.
Oh, no, this was truly such a pleasure. I loved our conversations.